is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and welcome to another video. This is the month of July, so for a lot of G.I. Joe fans, it's a special time known as Cobra Month, and we owe that to Hooded Cobra Commander. I honestly would prefer a Joe month, so maybe down the line we'll come up with one of those. But for now, we're going to keep to the tradition of Cobra Month. Normally, I get involved with Hooded Cobra Commander and other G.I. Joe reviewers, or reviewers that review G.I. Joe amongst other things, because there are quite a few of us that do that. And we get in on a big storyline that's kind of channel wide. Each of us do a little piece and we connect the pieces together to make a big overarching story, and that is usually the fun of a thing called Cobra Convergence. This month, or this year actually I should say, I have been extremely busy. Lots of different things happen, job change, and then further change in the same job, family things, friends of the family going through things, lots of stuff has happened. So I haven't had the time. And I've also been having kind of some issues with YouTube in general. So needless to say, all those things have kind of slowed down my production schedule. So I have not, and I was not able to get involved with the main story of Cobra Convergence. But to be honest, I prefer the more intimate one-on-one type deals, or I guess individualized ideas where we talk about one subject just on our own. So my contribution to Cobra Convergence is going to be this video. I'm gonna kind of go off the rails and do something a little bit different from most Cobra Convergence videos. Most of the time people review a figure. I've reviewed figures in the past, and this time I am going to put my attention on some people and then a person who is pretty instrumental in at least my enjoyment of G.I. Joe past what Hasbro has been doing. And I guess for many people, he adds to their enjoyment past what we've been getting from Hasbro. When we think about, G.I. Joe, a lot of us think about the figures, but then a big chunk of us think about customization. That's a big part of the hobby. If you feel that Hasbro creates awesome figures that have certain limitations, then once again, customization is a big part of the hobby, because you can take it upon yourself to improve on what Hasbro has given us. So essentially Hasbro provides the base, and then we expand on that base. If it weren't for customizing, I wouldn't have Fenris Company. You know what I mean? ODC wouldn't have the Sweet 16. I always forget the guy's name, and I'm going to do a video on it, so I'm going to research that. But we wouldn't have William Winchester. We wouldn't have. There's a ton of different characters that have become kind of mainstays, or at least memorable, because if you're not posting every fucking day, then people don't seem to think your things exist. They forget that your work exists. But really doesn't matter if you like vintage stuff, if you like the new sculpt era stuff, because a lot of people do. Even though they look kind of weird in some cases, they still were cool. Some people like the 25th stuff, which is getting into the modern era, or you like the modern stuff, which is like your 50th anniversary or and stuff like that. But I prefer some of the customs. And there are some customizers like Oreo Builder, who they're the names that you think of when we talk modern customization. Oreo Builder did a lot of work on a massive collaboration between a ton of customizers. It was a project called G.I. Joe Resurgence, where he just imagined what new G.I. Joes would be like with new characters, and he took part. A lot of other customizers took part in working on it with him. My sensibilities kind of shift more towards Rye 1, where you make the Joes look more modern and more realistic, and but you can still take these designs and put them in very over-the-top situations, which is Fenris Company. But I love his designs. Another person you might think of is Marauder Rubin, who is also known as Mayhem Customs, and there's other people involved with Mayhem Customs as well, or Vitruvian Productions. They created these customs and he did the paint jobs on them. And you can see they come up with some amazing stuff. It really shows you, how far G.I. Joe could be pushed. You know, they keep raising the prices, but the figures don't look this good. But my all-time favorite is this gentleman right here. This guy elevates conceptually, he elevates the idea of the Joes and how they work and their designs to a completely different level. It's like next level shit. That's why I call him the GOAT. That is Boris Ping. Some people know him as Wang Ping on Facebook. This man is a genius. Now, the term genius gets thrown around very loosely, but when you look at what he used to make these figures, I mean, he used existing G.I. Joe parts. He just sanded down things. I mean, a lot of the standard stuff that you see customizers do, but the effect to which he got it and the parts that he used, I mean, it just sets them apart. They all feel like individuals. The first custom I ever saw of Wang's was, or Boris Ping's, was this Lady J here. I love the fact that instead of just making her look like the cartoon, he went in a more tactical direction with her. This is what I'm talking about when I say maintaining the integrity of the original design, but then you push it further. You know what I mean? Modernize it. You see, she's got gear. She's not just showing off her breasts and her hips because she's female. She looks like one of the guys. And that's how many of us played with this figure. We made her one of the guys. She just was capable like one of the guys. And, you know, it's weird because, like, I shouldn't even have to mention that she's one of the guys. She's part of the team. She's equal. But that seems to be a problem with a lot of the customs. A lot of the customs have, you know, the girls wearing belly shirts and shit, and, like, they just don't look as tactical. They look sexy, but they don't look as tactical. And this is an anti-terrorist squad. Every member has to look like they pull their weight because they're supposed to be able to pull their weight. And this looks right. Same goes for his General Hawk. He looks like the legendary character that we know can trade punches with Destro. You know what I mean? He looks like he's seen some shit. Look at the scar on his head. Look at his crew cut. It's everything you know, but it's a little bit less generic and there's more character to it. The updated fast draw or quick draw you know, holster on his leg, the updated boots, the better fitting jacket. It feels exactly like what he should look like, just updated so it makes more sense to us. Little things like what I've just described are what puts these designs over and makes them feel more believable. Same goes for Stalker. Although I have issues with the type of camo, I looked at this design and I was like, man, this is too simple. He needs more. He needs to be a little bit more badass looking. But the more I looked at it and I see what he's doing with him, it makes sense. I mean, he's got on jungle camo. That works. And you look at all the detail of what he's carrying, how it hangs, where things are, and you can see this dude is no normal soldier. This is like boss level shit from Metal Gear. You know what I mean? You can see that Homeboy has ridiculous levels of training because he's not carrying that much gear with him. Grand Slam. I mean, he made Grand Slam super cool with an exosuit of all things. Perfect. Perfect. It separates him from Zap and what was the other guy's name? Steeler. No, not Steeler. It's Zap and Flash. But that looks so he even made Grunt cool, and Grunt just looks like a modern Grunt. It's perfect. I mean, there's not really much more that needs to be done. He's just well designed and believable, and that's what G.I. Joe would need in order for it to, you know, kind of move forward into the new age. And I mean, look how good that looks. Another favorite is his version of Short Fuse. He gave Short Fuse the boss treatment with the cybernetic arm or the prosthesis. I'm at a loss for words every time I see these designs because unlike everyone else, he gave them their specialty and then he modernized the character. Things about them physically, it speaks to their character. You know what I mean? You want to know, how did that happen? How did he get that arm? Look at this version of Torpedo. I love Torpedo. I love the seals in G.I. Joe on both sides because there's what's the word? There's a level of functionality that the seals have, and you can use them in any setting that I feel like would be really perfect for the Joes in general. You should look at them as a SEAL team, but like on steroids, because they are able to operate in any terrain, under any under any circumstances. It's just you have people who are specialists in different areas, and this torpedo looks legit. Flash. He brought Flash into the future. His suit looks not overdone, but it looks interesting. You can see there's plating, there's armor, and he's got a more futuristic rifle. It's perfect. That's all he needed. Muskrat. A lot of people love Muskrat. All his gear, it shows you what he specializes in easily. And you know he does operate in marshlands really well, in swamp areas. You know, he can kind of work from the water and then onto the land, and he looks like he's capable of that. Steeler. He's a tank commander. Give him a flak jacket, a ballistic helmet, some goggles. There it is. No matter what weapon you give him, he's going to look right. Give him a bazooka, give him a pistol. Scarlet. She looks like she's seen some shit. And, you know, I've come to the realization that Scarlet is kind of a scary chick. You know, the type of chick who would want to kill people up close with a garrote wire. And this looks like an assassin. I love it. He knows what the character is, and he made the gear match the character. Zap. He looks like a bazooka trooper. Plain and simple. And he made him look interesting. You know, I don't like those fast helmets, but it works. It's a modernization, and they all come from modern special forces. He would have that gear. Rock and roll, of course, is one of my favorites. He looks amazing. He has the look without sacrificing the functionality, and that's how it should be. Now, I think that he gets his inspiration from Clemente Suco. Why do I say that? And who is Clemente Suco? He designed characters for Army of Two, the 40th Day. You can just tell when you look at them. He also designed the characters for G.I. Joe Renegades. You can definitely tell when you look at his work. Here are his versions, though, of those characters. You can tell something was lost in translation. I mean, look at how much more detailed his designs are than what they ended up looking like in the show. But the Army of Two stuff, this is where he really shined, because look at the amount of detail, the amount of gear, the amount of, you know, just little pieces that build up and make up what these characters are. There's no mistaking that these guys are seasoned veterans. The way that their knee pads fit, the way they got shin guards, you can tell there's specifics for that. Even the basic thugs, I guess they're troops, basic troops. Look at them. You know, they look like they're prepared for war. When I was saying that, you know, this is the direction that I want G.I. Joe to go in, it's crazy because all this shit was already out. Clemente Suco did this stuff before G.I. Joe Renegades, you know, and during that period of time too. But just look at the level of detail. Everything that they're wearing exists. You know, is it exaggerated? Oh yeah, shit's exaggerated like a motherfucker, but it works. It makes sense, both on the hero side and the villain side, and that's what we needed for G.I. Joe. And I think this is where Mr. Ping gets his inspiration, and it allows him to bring the characters into or up to the next level without being too cheesy. And by too cheesy, I mean without, you know, all the exaggeration and more of the technical pieces. I mean, look at his Cobras. His Cobra is like, whew, different level. Everybody has the proper gear. Alley Vipers represented well. You have 2 levels of Alley Vipers plus a female Alley Viper. You can see the one female with the hat on the end looks like she's higher in rank. His ninjas, I mean, everything here is as it was in the original designs, but he went a step further. You know what I mean? There's blood on one of the dudes. He looks undead almost. You got a little bit of Ninja Gaiden. He added flourishes on some of the costumes. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. So Boris does a thing that I love, because you know I love Pursuit of Cobra. He takes the Pursuit of Cobra approach and adds the classic characters and gives them a classic kind of feel to them. And he started with the ladies. And he made them sexy, but he also made them tactical, which is the thing that's missing from the majority of the different customs you see out there. Let's start with his take on the female Cobra Trooper. Effortlessly sexy, but still looks tactical. And it's funny because Hasbro tried, and it's almost like the less we say about this with the Cobra Officer, the better. Shit. Anyway, they tried again, and this one was a lot better. This one, as an added bonus, actually had artwork done by me. Yep. This was promo artwork I did for them. So anyway, he took all the things from the character as we saw her in the cartoon, and then he made her look a little bit more, I don't know. I mean, he added more modern details. You know, the physique looks more modern with those hips, even the breast size. And I'm not saying that you need to go overboard, but she has breasts there. She's extremely feminine, but she looks like she can get down and dirty when you look at the rest of her gear, which works. Blue shirts are supposed to be bare bones. If there's anything I would change on this figure, it would be the pants. Now, the Viper. I love the female Viper because I've been saying since before the video I made about what I would do if I had G.I. Joe, if I was in charge of the franchise or the toy line, I would add female versions of all the troopers. Why would you not do such a thing? And I mean, when you look at this design, she looks tactical, she looks hardcore, and nothing was lost. Nothing. He even the fact that she's wearing a vest that allows for breasts, she still looks just as tactical and hardcore, if not a little bit more tactical and more hardcore than her male counterparts. And this is the kind of quality design work that I've been talking about needs to go into G.I. Joe figures. The eels. I love Cobra eels. You know they're my favorite Cobra troopers. And he took the eels, added a female, and made her sexy without really doing much. I'm sure you could still put flippers on those feet. But by having her show a little bit more skin, which makes sense, female divers typically do dress like this, she looks a little sexier by giving her, hips that have articulation and giving, her a booty. She looks sexy without really doing too much. She's not risque, as the term goes. It's a action figure ass, but she looks, sexy and formidable. Same goes for the female Crimson Guard. For those of us who wanted to make Lady J go undercover with the guys, now you could do it if this existed. Very feminine, very badass looking. She still has the Fred aesthetics, but she's female. That's it. And this is all stuff that I've seen other people try to do and fail miserably, either because of the difference in skill level or just the lack of imagination or ability to follow the source material. So, Mr. Ping is on a different level. And it's not just with the females. Here is his version of the Rock Viper. He just improved everything that was whack about that figure. Giving him the Firefly, POC Firefly legs, or the Crimson Horseman legs. The backpack looks good, the helmet. He just added details that look more believable and make them look more formidable. And this is, this is what you do when it comes to Cobra. They got to have a little bit better tech and gear than the Joes. It's just the way it has to be for them to be a threat. And I mean, like, if Hasbro could do this, we would have so much better Joes. Let's hope the new ones do have it better. Look at his Major Blood. I mean, this is like, it's legendary, from the Iron Man arm and to the combination armor from the I want to say that's either Flint. It's one of the Retaliation Joes, the Ultimate Flint or Ultimate Duke or Mouse, and then it's the Elite Viper from Rise of Cobra's chest armor. He combined the two. The paint job is beautiful. I mean, it just makes sense. The Steel Brigade backpack, it works perfectly. It just looks great. And it doesn't just stop with the look of the figure. You got to also understand that the figures are posable. He goes back and makes sure all the joints work. Even at times he goes back and somehow retrofits them so that you could use Figma joints or Revoltech joints for some of the figures to allow for more natural posing options. I mean, what more could you ask for? He has fun with these amazing creations. But let's talk about the piece of resistance, the Saw Viper. Saw Viper looked like this in the comics when he popped up in the 90s. This is what his toy looked like. This is what he looked like also in the cartoon. Very similar design. This is what he looked like next in the New Sculpt era. This was an exclusive version that came next, built on the POC Iron Grenadier's body. So he was bigger, like he was supposed to be. And here is the 50th anniversary version of the same figure. So essentially it's that figure with a different vest, or flak jacket, it's Beachhead's flak jacket, and different colors, but the same overall feel. But then look at this. Look at this beauty. He took pieces of some of the same figures, mixed and matched, some of the same flak jackets and such, and added a more tactical, more urban ops kind of feel to him, which makes sense because he would be urban ops. So this guy would be the heavy, much like the Juggernauts in Army of Two 40th Day. You can see a lot of things that carried over design-wise. And I mean, this is a testament to Boris's ability to just modernize these figures. I mean, a big dude with a swivel arm on the, the saw that he's carrying. It makes sense because that means his movements will be a little bit faster and more effortless, which makes him a bigger threat on the battlefield. This is what it's all about, folks. This kind of thoughtfulness, this kind of design, this kind of ability to add character to an existing character, but in a modern context, this is exactly what's needed to make G.I. Joe, put it on top again, make it click with more than just us older fans. You know what I'm saying? So, props to Boris Ping. If you don't know him, you need to go and look up everything he's done. He offers so much to the G.I. Joe mythos, and he makes so many of these characters stand out even more than they already did with just a smaller, I shouldn't even say smaller, but just with the amount of thought that goes into his designs. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is the GOAT. If you didn't know before, now you know. And you guys should go out of your way to find out as much as you can about the guy. I would have had a interview with him on here, but I know there's a time difference, and it was a little bit difficult getting a hold of him on Facebook. So I figured, you know what, I will do this, and maybe down the line we'll be able to do a proper interview or geek out or something. So that is my look at the work of Boris Ping. I hope you guys dug it. I hope you learned something. I hope this might have changed your perspective on action figure customs, because putting a lot of things that you love, a lot of things that you like on a figure doesn't always make that figure an accurate representation of the character. But actually studying what the character is supposed to do and how they do it, and then tailoring your design to that, makes for a better representation of our favorite characters. That's what you should be looking for when you look at customs. There are a number of guys that I did not mention. I want to give a big shout out to Dave Anthony from joecustoms.com. He did the Flint that I used as the first custom that I showed. He's got some cool shit on that site that you need to check out. Other guys like Cloud Strife, Stranox. I've already put a bunch of others like Oreo Builder. Rye 1 is on a different level too. He's pretty damn good. His stuff could almost seamlessly match with Mr. Ping's work. But yeah, customs, man. Quality customs. It's something that we don't get enough of. It's a lie to say that there is not such a thing as a quality, well done custom that both represents the character and is a good figure. There's a lot of people doing customs, and it's nice to see them, but it's nice to give recognition where it's due, and point out the level of skill and mastery of the craft that goes into what some of these folks do. So anyway, that is it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.